It is Monday, guys. Happy Monday. I'm feeling really tired today, so hopefully my energy picks up. But it is another Money Talk Monday. Come on in, file on in, everyone. Let's get started with the conversation. So if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If not, go ahead and put in the comments either you've been here before or not, where you're coming in from. So name, saying hi, where you're from. And we're shifting things a little bit this time around. I want to talk to people about what's your financial struggle that's recent right now. I think the conversation and topic today is going to definitely dive into some of the world issues that we've been having. I say world issues, but it's really our country that I'm referring to, but some of the issues that we're having. And so I just want to have everyone log in, say where you're coming in from, and what's one financial struggle that you're dealing with. So hi, hello to everyone. Hey, Ashley, can you hear me?
Sorry, wait, I'm trying to get my stuff together with this
No, you're all good.
Ugh, every time.
No, you're good. So if you guys are first joining us for the first time, welcome. Hi, this is Money Talk Mondays. We do this every single Monday. We talk about money and all the things that are surrounding said dollars, I'd say. So if you're new to this conversation, definitely give us a wave in the comments. Tell us where you're coming in from. And the question I pose to everyone is, what's one financial struggle or one financial hurdle that they're dealing with right now? Because I think that kind of helps to frame some of the conversation we'll have today. I think for me, one thing that I'm trying to figure out or having to come back to the drawing board about is the fact of, how do I keep planning for early retirement when monies don't seem to be growing the way that they should? And, whether that be my job or, in the economy, whatever the case may be. So I'll say that's my current struggle. I typically look at my investments and my strategy maybe once or twice a year. I feel like with the changes that have been happening, I'm kind of like peeking at it a little bit more often, just like what's going on, is everything okay? Which I don't like to do nervous investment. I am very much a set it and forget it person, but I think that's the one thing I've been like, how am I able to get to that same goal and dream that I have of retiring early, or at least having somewhat of retirement, because I have Barista fire in my mind. So yeah.
You want to explain what barista fire is?
Oh yeah, true. Because I'm like, people were like, "What? You want to be a barista?" No, not necessarily. That's not really something I'm interested in. But basically, for me, if you're not familiar with fire, I'll start with there. If you're not familiar with the terminology of fire, that is retire. Fire is financial independence, retire early. That's what the acronym stands for. And there's various different ways of that. As the traditional fire took off a couple of years ago, almost like a decade or so ago at this point. There's different versions of it. Barista fire is having all of your needs met under the fire movement, meaning that all of the things that help you to live or get all the needs that you have in your life covered are covered by your investments in your retirement and the things that you have already set about. But for the wants that you have in life, the travels, the trips, the buying the clothes and things of that nature, you get yourself a little part-time job, or you have some sort of working experience to get you more dollars in the door. So for me, barista fire is my thing, and it's because I know I'm not gonna sit still. Like, to say that I will 100% be on a beach, pina colada, and the entire experience, it's probably not realistic for myself. So in my mind, I'd like the idea that if I decide, oh, I don't really want to work here any longer, all right, time to go. That gives me that flexibility still. And I would only be, deciding to do either contract work or various different things to be able to allow myself the opportunity to get additional money. So like if I want to go traveling the world or do something extraordinary that doesn't just handle my regular basic needs, that's what the job would help me to do. So that's kind of what I've been looking at doing.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that, because I'm not sure if people are even familiar with fire, but there's different types of fire that I've been hearing recently. Barista fire was one. I think there was coast fire as well. So like just different terms that I've been hearing lately.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to like at least explain it a little bit as people are trying to figure out their own situation and what
Yeah.
their future could even look like.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, and not I know this kind of just speaks to fire itself. One of the things I do like about the various different versions of fire, if you guys are not familiar, or this is something that you're kind of getting into to understand different ways of operating in finance, but the different versions of fire allows you the opportunity to craft it to who you are as a person versus very much a set it and it has to be one certain way. So that's why I said for me, I don't see myself ever retiring. So even if I did want to go after a traditional fire, it just didn't make sense for my lifestyle. So it just would better to shift it over to something that does fit my lifestyle and you can kind of customize it. And I think that's one of the things we talk about on a regular basis is how do we find ways to customize our goals toward financial independence or whatever financial goals that we have in mind versus just taking the cookie cutter, thing that is out there.
Exactly. No, I definitely hear you on that. And just leaning into that a little bit more, I know that for me right now, trying to figure out, like we're talking about like financial plans and what's happening with us. And of course, like with baby on the way and countdown is definitely ticking. There's so many things that can be very expensive, but some things are chosen, I'll say, to still be done. Like when we talk about baby showers or baby moons and maternity shoots, gender reveals, I feel like a lot of stuff is what people are, I'll say, hyping, and then some things people just want to do.
Yeah.
Like you want to have a baby shower, but people, a lot of people tell me like a gender reveal is like a new thing, like over the past like 5 to 10
Oh, yeah.
years, versus like when we were kids, there were no gender reveals because you didn't know when what the baby was when it was coming. So like,
How about when you found out that was it?
exactly. So just those types of things, or even maternity shoots. Like as I was looking for one, that's why I have all this makeup on because I had one today. But I finally decided to do one because I was like, do I really want to even like spend the money for this? And it wasn't even always just the money thing. Like, do I even want to do this? Like, is this something that I feel like I am kind of obligated to do because everybody else is doing it? Or is it something that I actually want to do for the memories? So like, that's something that you have to decide for yourself. But I think with anything like customizing, like you said, same thing for retirement, customizing to what it is that you want it to be and then figure it out from there. Not feeling like this pressure, like, oh, I have to do this thing because that's what I see all my friends doing, or that's what I see on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and figure it out from there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one thing that I found that makes it's a positive and a negative when it comes to finance. It's personal finance, personal to you and your situation, which is a benefit because you can mold it and craft it how you want. But then there are some limitations where it's like, well, I don't have your situation, or I don't have your dollars, or I don't have your XYZ. So how do I make this work for me? And I think that's one of the things that we found a love and a passion for talking about and educating when it comes to personal finance, because of the fact that it is difficult to navigate something you're not even certain about when there's so many varying variables that you have to take into account. Like I can never just tell someone do X, Y, Z. At best, probably, yet again, high yield savings. I'm always throwing out there. That's probably the one thing, like copy paste. Everybody can use a high yield savings. It's always going to be great. But other than that, there's a lot of complexity to the process of like, how do you craft a money system that works for you, different ideas and strategy that work for you? How do you want to retire? How do you want to work? How do you want to do all these different things? It is customizable, which is a benefit, but you kind of have to understand what you're doing in that situation.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I know that we had a conversation. I sent you a video recently, and I was like, "Ooh, this is interesting. Let's watch," because we nerd out about money stuff. But basically, I think our last money talk really got me inspired to the fact of like understanding what's happening in our world of finance, particularly the US. Everyone's feeling a bit strained. I know we talked about gas prices being crazy, which I'm just like, oh my goodness. And then, employment being kind of tough and tight. And, there's different taxes and paying attention to that. There's a lot of different, situations that are shifting and changing, becoming more expensive or getting more strict in various different areas. So I think that the video I sent you was really, eye-opening because of the fact that they were talking more and more about what it feels like to be in this economy and why does it feel like even though the numbers say things look all good, we are not feeling that. It's like someone's gaslighting here and I don't know who it is, and like that experience that most people are feeling. So I know if you're joining us now, I want to ask the question to everyone. When it comes to cost of living, how are you feeling toward cost of living? And of course I'll present this to you as well, Ashley. Do you feel like, oh, okay, for the most part, things are a little bit, extra, but I got it, I'm handled, things are okay, feels comfortable? Or is it like things feel wild and crazy and I don't understand how I'm surviving? Like how far on that spectrum do you feel like you fall?
I feel like I am I know that things are getting more expensive, but I have it handled.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I also feel like because I'm in a shift in my life financially, so I have to think about things very differently now versus like I did this time last year.
Mm.
So like that's where last year I was planning vacations. This year I'm planning nursery. So like very, very different time in my life. But even with like everyday expenses, talking like gas, groceries, even thinking car washes, because I just got that done the other day. Like all of those things, I'm noticing not necessarily big price jumps.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting more like these smaller things, like maybe a 50-cent change, or maybe just $1 is where I'm noticing things going up. And I know that, of course, like a dollar may not be much to me, but it may mean more to somebody else. Or in the grand scheme of things, like if you're buying 30 items, that adds up to 30 extra dollars in your grocery bill. Like that's significant.
Yeah.
And that's where I am really trying to look at things a little bit closer just to make sure that I'm not going over.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like we're at a point right now where when certain households are making less money, like if you're talking like average household numbers where we're touching like 60,000,
Mm-hmm.
that is where I definitely see it being very rough. I'm in a different situation because I'm in a two-income household. We don't pay for childcare yet because I know childcare is something that's very expensive. People are also like, especially in the video, they mentioned it as well, where people are like, I'm delaying or deciding not to have children just because of how expensive it is.
Yeah.
For daycare alone, like right now, we priced out an average around $1,800 a month.
Whew.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. A lot. That's a
Like
lot.
that's more than my mortgage.
Yeah. The fact that we're in and I think that this is a good point of, to me, the idea of cost of living is, it's been steadily creeping up, but I think that there's been large jumps in the past 2 to 3 years in certain areas. And I think that's the part where it's like, okay, you squeeze here, but then this one area jumps up really high. Like, everyone knows that the moment when they realized the cost of eggs was like, okay, is this my whole grocery bill is eggs? Just the 12 eggs? I'm okay. So we all knew that when we felt that experience, but now if you experience just the eggs going up and everything else stays low, then it's like, okay, that one item. But when everything else is slowly creeping up next to it, it becomes more of a squeeze and a pinch in various different areas. So I think that is kind of how I feel about the cost of living, that it is becoming more difficult in various different areas because as we're steadily rising up, certain things have not been keeping pace with that. Of course, as we know, when it comes to employment, employment is in a very difficult space. And I know when CSC first started, where our main objective was to support people within career and resume building. And nowadays, the average process to get a job, instead of saying, oh, it'll take you about, let's say, 30 job applications to get you 2 to 3 interviews, it's taking you about 2 to 300 job applications to get 1 or 2 job interviews. And that's if it even goes to full term within that process of the application process. So even that experience of getting into jobs is more difficult. But then on top of it, as we all know, I mean, some industries more than others, getting that increase of, promotion, bonus, all those things have been stunted for quite some time. So you have all these different things going up. Eggs is $10, which is wild. Anyways, $10 for eggs and, bread. And then, just your basic needs are going up. But then I always say, when you give me a 2% or 1% raise, you might as well just give me a high five. Like, they just give me a high five, because that's what it feels like for what all is happening around me. I think that's kind of where I feel like with the cost of living is getting squeezed slowly in certain areas and then very aggressively in different areas. I don't know if you kind of understand that or experience that too.
Oh, most definitely. And something I thought that was really interesting is that when it comes to jobs, people aren't necessarily like, there's definitely layoffs happening, don't get me wrong. But overall, large groups of people aren't being fired. They just aren't hiring. So people are stuck.
It's a stalemate.
So if you want to change your job, or if you need to get a job, especially those, like, we're coming up on graduation season. So there's going to be a plethora of people who are looking for a new job or looking for a job straight out of college.
Yeah.
And that's the generation that's having the hardest time to get a job. And I think we experienced this as well. The video even mentioned that the last time that this was happening was back in 2012.
Yep.
Where, like, graduates, so people with degrees, and I remember that for myself, the best job I could get was working at the front desk of a doctor's office, making $13 an hour. And most of the people that I was working with did not have degrees.
Yeah. And that imbalance of going in for that experience of being highly qualified, but not being able to give the opportunities. And that anyone under 25 right now, put in the comments what your experience has been with the, application process, hiring process, going to find jobs, employment. Because I do feel like, as much as right now there's like a stalemate with people that have the experience. Because I don't know if you experienced this when you first came out of college, where it's like, tales all this time. I don't know if there's been a time where it's like they put up positions where it's like you need 5 years experience as an entry level. How does that work?
Yeah,
I've never
not there.
Yeah, so it's like you have this imbalance to be able to get into the system, and then now for that reason, now that there's a stalemate, they really aren't opening up to people under 25 or those people that don't have as much experience. So with that being said, as a lot of people having to struggle to get into different employment opportunities, much less the fact of asking for what they want when it comes to pricing, because they spoke about that in the video where some people are coming out very much qualified but still not making the same dollars that they were promised when they were in school or when they got the degree or certification. So something to definitely pay attention to nowadays, which is kind of frustrating. I
Yeah. And you kind of feel like you're behind. Because if you're comparing yourself, I'll say my example where I am working with all these people who didn't go to college, I'm actually behind because I have the student loans and I have the extra debt and they don't, and still get the same wage. So, like, my money doesn't go as far just because I have the additional bills that I have to pay. And yeah, we have that forbearance of whatever, but interest is still accruing. So you're actually digging yourself deeper in a hole because of that. And it's definitely tough as you're trying to figure it out. And even, like, me and my friends have been having these conversations about whether or not you should even get a degree. Or you should get certificates and that sort of thing. Like, I will say that college itself is a entire experience, but I do think that it's worth asking that question. Like, before you go off to college, why are you going? Like, do you need to delay maybe a year just to kind of figure it out of what you really like to go in with? I think they used to let you do like an undecided major.
Yeah, if I remember that. I had a couple friends of mine who were undecided for a while.
Yeah, no. Like, you're racking up debt. Like, that's absolutely wild. But I don't think that it was thought of like that.
Yeah,
I think
no,
the thing
really, it
was like,
wasn't.
just go to school, just get the degree. I definitely changed my major,
Mhm.
only once, but I did change my major, and I still don't work in what I got my degree in.
Which, mind you, they talked about it before. I think it's definitely over 50% of people do not work within their original intended degree when they first come out, and even sometimes up to now. And I think one of the things you point out, which is good, I think that the understood nature of go to college, get a good job, allow there to be this mentality of going into college and you'll figure it out, because at the end of the day, being here makes more sense than not being here. I think that's why that undecided major was a thing, because it's like, don't worry, at the end of the day, you'll find something to graduate with, and it's going to be more impactful, more helpful for you to have that said thing than to not have it. Versus now, it's like, no, don't go signing up for FAFSA yet. What do you want to do? Well, how do you get there? And there's so many different modalities now that gets you to the next place. Like I will say, in the tech field, I don't know many people in tech now that have certified bachelor's or master's degrees. It's typically an amalgamation of certifications and experience. So some people are saying, do you need that degree to be able to go into certain fields? And in my opinion, I'll say, no, you don't. You may need to be more thoughtful in that process, especially when we're talking about the dollar signs. Like you said, once you come out of college, you're starting at negative where other people are starting at zero. Zero is not a great place to be, but negative is definitely harder to make an impact in what you're trying to do financially than coming at zero. So that I definitely feel that way nowadays. And I think that things are shifting more and more to the fact of being intentional across every area of your life that has something to do with finance. I think before it was a given that certain decisions and plans and actions were a good decision, but you really have to sit down and say, where am I trying to end up? And how do I get here within the new life that we live now? When it comes to job, I know for me, for jobs, I used to hop around every 2 to 3 years. We don't have a market where it's easy for you to hop around to be able to push your income higher and higher. Because if you're not familiar with it, in the past, when you were moving from job to job, you were able to at least glean 10 to 15% of a bump in pay versus the 3 to 7% that you would probably get with a increase staying with one job. So there was a large majority of, I would say, the millennials that would shift around and go from job to job. I was a part of that, kind of finding my best ways to get all my skills and move around. But now things have slowed down. It's harder to find roles. You have to now say, oh, I can't just decide to hop again, because that may not help you in that situation. You have to sit down and say, how do I navigate this? And what's the best next play for me if I can't use this tool I've used before?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I get that it's still all a personal preference.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to figure out what it is that you are doing, but like you mentioned, being intentional and taking that time. I will say that, like, definitely in my early 20s, I was not intentional. Definitely in my late 20s, when I was like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta figure this out. Like, I can't stay where I am forever. And that meant, like, even being at my mom's house and my job. Like, I was like, I hate this job. Like, I don't want to be in here. And I think for me, it was that my boss that I didn't care for really still liked me as like an employee for being in that role, but I couldn't see myself there. And that's where, like, I decided to, like, shift from that and just kind of asking questions and reaching out to people. But I think that that's where you have the opportunities, though, because you can increase your network. You can, and I get all of this is easier said than done. And it is a process. I don't think anything is overnight. Even if the job market was better, I still think that there is a process with networking that's still beneficial, but it takes time.
Yeah, for sure. And if anything, I do think one of the things that people need to pay attention to, which you mentioned, the intentionality and it taking time, and also keeping your finger to the pulse. I think one of the things that even made me excited about this video is I mean, I am a money nerd in the sense of just wanting to know what's happening in certain areas, but I do think it's important, even if you don't care for all of the information in the news, and sometimes it's a lot, to keep your ear to the ground with certain areas in life because they make a big difference. Knowing what's happening in your industry is very important for you to understand. Even if you're not caring 100% to stay in that industry, you should still know how the landscape is shifting and changing. When it comes to the housing market, at least understanding what's probably happening in your area. When it comes to food and transportation, I know that we get a lot of our information from social media, which is helpful in certain situations, but also just keeping sure that you have one or two good sources to keep your ears to the ground. Because what I found, especially from watching this video and them explaining, how we got to the place we are, why it feels so tough right now, what it's all sounding like is an amalgamation of a bunch of different things coming together to feel that squeeze. And if you're not paying attention, you don't know that the squeeze is coming down the line. You wake up one day like, oh my gosh, everything just feels like a lot. I can't go forward. I feel like I'm overwhelmed. Versus if I have my ear to the ground, I can kind of understand that, oh, AI is coming to shift this area, or, oh, this is happening here in my area and they do have grants for this. Like there's different things that may be happening financially that you may be able to tap into to make small shifts and changes so that those larger changes that happen abroad across the board don't impact you so heavily all at once, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think an important part to think about with that is that the metrics don't align with sentiment. So, yes, we have all these data points that people are talking about, and they're saying that the economy is good, and you're like, but my bills aren't paid. Like, what do you mean the economy is good? Like, that is the disconnect that we have. And that's where when we see like where they talk about like the K-shaped economy, and where there is this point where there for some people things are going up, and then for some people gotta invert it, things are going down. And for those people things are going down, they're gonna continue to feel that squeeze. And that's because things are continuing to go up. Like people don't realize that inflation is just a natural thing.
Yeah.
Now, how much inflation goes up is a whole other story. But inflation itself is just natural. Like things just cost more in general now than they did 30 years ago when we were born and all that. So that's just natural. But like over the past, I'll say 3 years, that's where inflation has just gone crazy in many different areas, and not even just when it comes to what we buy every day, but just service purchases. When I think about how much my husband pays for a haircut, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like this is
small things like that. And I think that experience right there shows how what happens on a larger scale can trickle all the way down to your experience over time. It's the overtime experience because it used to be $20 for a haircut. How much is it now? I don't know, like
30. And depending on like if you're getting a fade versus just them like doing
it.
Mind you, I've never had a haircut, so I have no idea. Well, like a fade or like anything with razors. I'm afraid of razors. So I just don't I've never been there. But yeah, I think it's like $30 a cut.
Yeah.
And like a lot of guys are getting it twice a week or twice a month. So that's like already $60. And then that does not include tipping.
Correct. Yeah, for sure. But I know, I think with that, I'm hoping that, if you are experiencing any sort of tightness in budget, cost of living, and you're trying to figure out how to make it all work, we're always here to help. So if you want to DM us and ask questions on like what you can do, I'll say one of the things that I would say is a benefit or a plus from my background and history, I never grew up with a lot of money in my pocket. And I say the benefit of that is because my mother taught us how to stretch a coin and a dollar. So when it comes to saving tips and tools and things of that nature, that's something that I always use as a back pocket tool in these tight times of how to make it all work, how to shop at this place to get points at this place, to do this at this place. I love me a good deal anytime, even if the money is looking good. I love me a good deal. So I think that if there are questions that people have, reach out to us because we are always into that stuff. That's how we talk and how we deal with things. But also our manual kind of helps to give you the basis line of a lot of information, whether that be savings tips and tricks, or, just certain principles you can put in place, budgeting, things of that nature. So if you do have any questions in regards to savings, budgeting, even debt management, we're always here to help out with that. But I want to kind of leave off with one question for everyone who's watching, as well as the fact for you, Ashley. I think after watching that video, and how it, right now we're in a K-shaped economy. There's a lot of people that are getting lots of good money, and other people that are feeling the squeeze. I'm interested to find out, because this was my question after I watched that. I was like, what would people readily pay for to allow their lives to be a little bit more easygoing? I know right now we pay taxes, and sometimes people feel, and I know I feel sometimes like, well, that taxes goes to the air. I don't know where it goes. I don't feel it. I don't see it. But if you knew that, $100 a month goes toward a pot of money, what would be the things that, like, I'd pay $100 a month so that XYZ is covered by the government? I know my first question, or my first thing, is healthcare. $100 a month to know that all of my healthcare needs are truly met, not copays, because they talked about that too, where sometimes you go in and you think your copay is $20, it turns out to be $125. Like, that doesn't always feel fair. So for me, that would be the thing, that $100 in a month, I would feel like, okay, I'd pay that, knowing good and well that every time I pay that money, healthcare needs are covered. That's my first thing. I don't know about you.
Yeah, healthcare is huge. I will say that is probably my number one. My number two would probably be childcare. I'm about to like go into that. And I will say that even for my friends, they've always mentioned how expensive childcare is, which is why a lot of their households, they either have one income households, or maybe the mom works part-time, so that they don't pay as much in childcare, and the child is more so like part-time, or if they're lucky enough to have like retired parents, maybe their parents will watch the kids. Like, it's definitely something that I've noticed is very expensive, and kind of has always been. I don't know if it's ever been something that was just completely taken care of. And I will say there were government vouchers that were helping with that too, but I believe they're now on pause, so no one can like apply to get them again. But yeah, healthcare is definitely one of those things. I've seen people getting into medical debt because of surgeries. I know that was definitely something that I didn't expect. I had to have a surgery last year. And when I'm saying medical, I'm also talking dental, because dental prices are astronomical.
That is my problem right there.
Like, I was thinking about getting braces again, like Invisalign braces for like my bottom teeth. It was still going to be $4,000.
It's crazy.
Right. And my insurance didn't cover it because I'm over the age of 18. I was like, so you don't cover anything for like any adults? They're like, no. And I was like, does any insurance? I could not find any insurance. It's very rare to find an insurance that covers dental or orthodontics, I guess, for adults.
That's crazy. And it's so funny that you say that, because I always thought when I first got into like, I have my first, big girl job or whatever. And it's like, okay, let's do healthcare and let's do dental. Wait, ain't your teeth a part of your butt? How did that get separated? And then the eye is separate too. Yeah, so I totally get that when it comes to those experiences and pieces. So healthcare, that's, I think, for my biggest thing as I'm getting older, trying to stay on top of my health and doing it in a more holistic way. And the minute you start going into the places of, I'd like to get more tests done, or I'd like to see specialists, you see those dollar signs and the comma included, and it becomes really frustrating. So that was my first thing. And I also agree with the childcare. I think the last time I heard childcare was reasonably priced, not good. Reasonably priced was back in like 2001. Maybe. Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. All right.
That was like $600 for like one child. But then again, inflation and all that, I don't know what those numbers look like. But yeah, those two major areas, I mean, cost of living when it comes to where you live, healthcare, childcare, these are all very big experiences. And I think from that video, I just really came about saying like, I wish that sometimes we do have like a system in place in our country where it truly does benefit to pay into these things. Because I do hear of other countries that have, higher taxes, but the citizens and individuals truly experience that in full. And I don't think we always do that. And how when we have these experiences right now where, cost of living goes up when it comes to groceries, gas, all the necessities you have, it would be nice to know that, oh, this one area is covered in full. I'm gonna have to shift my money over, but I think we're feeling squeezes all around, and that's definitely difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I do think that, sorry, I do see somebody's comment that yes, there are some that will cover ortho. Thank you. I
Oh,
appreciate that. I will be searching for them. So I
okay.
appreciate that. But yeah, when it comes to different countries, I do know that Canada has higher taxes. And I'm not sure what additional things they cover. Because I do know that at least so my company has like Canadian employees as well as other countries.
Mhm.
And from what I know, the Canadian dollar doesn't go as far. Things are more expensive there. So like sometimes people will buy things here and then
Mhm.
like go across the border
Yeah.
because it's more expensive. I do know that for Australia, I believe that they have something where they pay for your or no, they don't pay for a college, but like unlike how for government for us, where like if you have certain jobs, they cover.
Hmm.
I think it's for anyone. Now I might be misquoting here, so I
Okay.
have to look it up more. But like with Australia, I believe that if you did come out of college with debt, after a certain time, maybe like 20 years, it's
Hmm.
cleared. Like
Yeah.
it's just done. No
Okay.
matter what job you have. So I don't know what the benefits of people paying then are for. I guess maybe they have better credit. I don't know how credit works in other countries because not everybody is as credit dependent as the US is.
Yes,
So
correct.
that's something too where like I know for me, like even just paying on your student debt, like even the minimum payments still helps your credit score because that means that you're paying on time. But
Correct.
I don't know how it works for other countries if they're not paying it at all. It's gotta hurt. Like you're just
Yeah.
letting interest and debt grow.
Yeah, I think like you said, some countries are not as credit dependent, but even in that situation, I think that I know that there's certain countries like Canada, they're like I know for Canada, healthcare, their preventative care is covered. Certain specialties are not. I think that's how they do it
Yeah.
with their healthcare. I'm just going off the top of my brain, but then like other countries where like for example education or upper education, higher education is covered up to a point. I know that for like certain places in Trinidad, that's a country my parents are from, where they'll cover it, but if you fail out of certain classes, then you have to pay for the class to do it again. Like stuff like that is just different, different levers. So I think that's just ways, and I think there are ways for us as a country to become more thoughtful in how we go about the ways that we deal with money. But then yet again, that's a different conversation for a different day. But I think that in general, for people that are struggling with the cost of living now, it is a true experience that right now things are more expensive. It is harder to get jobs the way that you want to get jobs and how to navigate your employment. And you have to become way more intentional in how you want to live your financial life this day and age than ever before. I'm not saying that you didn't have to before. The set it and forget it mentality does still exist, but it's very much you should be paying attention a bit more than you have in the past with whatever move you're trying to make. Even for myself, I want to go travel the world and see all these different countries and all the things, but I also have to make sure that, okay, I'm not going to travel the world and come back into debt, like stuff like that. I have to make sure I'm navigating it accordingly. And I think that's basically what I want everyone to kind of take away from this conversation today, is to be intentional about how you decide to navigate your financial journey. Know that it's custom, like we talked about before. Know that it's custom to how you want to live, but with that being said, you have to be intentional in how you want to customize it, how you want to go about it. And if you have questions, you can always reach out to my us to just learn more about it and also navigate how you want to navigate it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think that it's necessarily easy, but I do think that there are ways to get started that are easier than most people think.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, if anything, I know that I'm glad that whoever joined today to have this conversation with us. If you guys have questions in regards to what's happening in the economy, how to navigate for yourself, maybe, oh, you have a large amount of debt that you're trying to pay off, maybe when it comes to your budgeting, how to navigate that or how to save, all of those things, you can always reach out to us. But if not, we will see you yet again next Monday for us to have more conversations for Money Talk. So thank you guys for joining. Have a good one. Bye.